Everyone thought it was just another courtroom case, until the pregnant woman collapsed, and the judge opened a file that should have never existed, because what was written inside changed everything. The courtroom felt colder than it should have been. Air pressed against the skin like damp cloth. Every whisper echoed too loudly. Every breath seemed to belong to someone else. She stood near the witness stand, one hand resting on her swollen belly, fingers trembling against the thin fabric of her dress. Her name was Elena. Her lips were pale, her eyes unfocused. Yet she remained standing. Because she had to. Because this moment would decide everything. Across the room, the mistress sat with crossed legs. Perfect posture. A slow, confident smile stretching across her face. Her red nails tapped lightly against the wooden bench. Each tap sharp, measured, certain. She believed she had already won. The judge adjusted his glasses. Papers stacked neatly in front of him. A thick file rested on top, untouched. Waiting. The lawyer cleared his throat. His voice broke the silence like glass. Elena Morozova, please step forward. Elena took a step, then another. Her shoes scraped softly against the polished floor. Her breath grew heavier. Something twisted inside her. Sharp. Unforgiving. The room blurred for a moment. Faces melting into shadows. Voices fading into a dull hum. She pressed her hand harder against her stomach, as if trying to hold something together, as if trying to keep herself from breaking. The mistress leaned slightly forward, eyes gleaming, watching, waiting, enjoying every second. Elena reached the stand. Her fingers gripped the edge, knuckles turning white. The judge nodded once. A silent signal. State your testimony. Elena opened her mouth. No sound came out. Her throat tightened. Her chest rose sharply. Then it happened. A sudden gasp. A sharp intake of air. Her body stiffened. Her eyes widened in silent panic. And then she collapsed. The sound echoed. A dull thud against the wooden floor. Gasps filled the courtroom. Chairs scraped violently. Someone shouted for help. But Elena did not move. Her body lay still. One arm stretched awkwardly beneath her. Her hair spread across the floor like a dark shadow. The mistress blinked once, then slowly leaned back. A faint smirk returned. Cold. Satisfied. She whispered something under her breath. Something no one else could hear. The judge raised his hand. Order returned with effort. A doctor rushed forward, checking Elena's pulse. His face unreadable. Tense. Too tense. The silence grew heavier. The kind of silence that pressed against the ears. The judge looked down at the file. That thick file. Still untouched. His fingers moved slowly. Deliberately. He opened it. Paper against paper. A soft sound. But it cut through the room like a blade. The mistress shifted slightly. Her smile still there. Still confident. Still certain. The judge began to read. His voice calm. Measured. Paternity results have been verified. A pause. Long enough to stretch nerves thin. Long enough to make every heartbeat louder. Elena Morozova is not carrying the child of her husband. A ripple moved through the courtroom. Whispers exploded. Eyes widened. The mistress's smile grew sharper. Triumphant. But the judge did not stop. He turned the page. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if confirming something twice. Then he spoke again. Further analysis identifies the biological father. Another pause. He looked up, directly at the mistress. Her smile froze. Just slightly. Barely noticeable. But it was there. The biological father is not present in this courtroom as a defendant. The mistress's fingers stopped tapping, completely still. The biological father is registered under a sealed identity. Confusion spread. Thick. Uncomfortable. The judge's voice dropped lower. Colder. The identity has now been unsealed. Paper shifted again. A name revealed. The judge inhaled once. Then read it aloud. The mistress's face changed. Slowly. As if something invisible cracked beneath her skin. Her lips parted. Her eyes widened. Color drained from her cheeks. No. The word escaped her before she could stop it. Soft. Broken. Unbelieving. The courtroom turned toward her. All at once. The weight of every gaze crushing down. The judge continued. Unmoved. The biological father is identified as Viktor Sokolov. The name echoed. Heavy. Unavoidable. Viktor Sokolov. The mistress shook her head. Violently now. No, that is not possible. Her voice rose. Sharp. Desperate. But the judge did not react. The records confirm repeated contact between Viktor Sokolov and the witness over the past year. The air shifted. Something darker filled the room. Something wrong. The mistress stood abruptly. Her chair fell behind her. A loud crash. She did not notice. Her breathing became uneven. Rapid. Panicked. That file is wrong. Her voice cracked. Louder now. Almost screaming. But no one moved to comfort her. No one stepped forward. Because everyone understood something she did not want to face. Viktor Sokolov. The husband's father. Elena's father-in-law. The silence that followed was unbearable. Thick. Suffocating. The kind that made the walls feel closer. The mistress staggered back. Her legs unsteady. Her confident posture gone. Completely gone. The judge closed the file. A final sound. Decisive. Cold. Elena Morozova's testimony is no longer required. The doctor looked up. His expression grim. She needs immediate care. But the words barely registered. Because all attention remained locked on the mistress, who now stood alone in the center of the room. Breathing hard. Eyes darting. Searching for escape. But there was none. Only truth. Only exposure. Only the unbearable weight of what had just been revealed. And on the floor, Elena's fingers twitched slightly. Barely noticeable. A small movement. But enough to suggest. This was not the end. Not yet. Elena's fingers curled slightly. A faint movement beneath the stillness. Barely visible. But real. The doctor noticed first. His hand paused above her wrist. Then pressed again. Carefully. Her pulse was weak. But present. Move back. His voice was firm. Urgent. People stepped away. Reluctantly. As if afraid to break whatever fragile thread still held her here. The fluorescent lights flickered once. A brief tremor in the ceiling. Casting shifting shadows across the courtroom. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. Sharp. Unpleasant. Elena's eyelids fluttered. Slow. Heavy. Like lifting something far too heavy to carry. A faint sound escaped her lips. Not quite a word. More like a broken breath. The doctor leaned closer. Elena, can you hear me? Her head turned slightly. Just enough. Her gaze unfocused. Drifting. Searching. And then it stopped. Locked on one point. Across the room. The mistress. Still standing. Still trembling. But now frozen under that gaze. Elena's lips parted again. A whisper came out. Weak. But clear enough. You knew. The words fell into the room like a stone into deep water. Ripples spread instantly. The mistress shook her head. Too quickly. Too forcefully. No. But her voice betrayed her. It trembled. It broke. Elena tried to lift herself. Her body resisted. Pain shot through her. Visible on her face. Her jaw clenched. Her fingers gripped the floor. You knew. Stronger this time. Accusing. Certain. The doctor tried to stop her. You need to stay still. But Elena pushed slightly. Enough to raise her head. Her eyes no longer empty. Now filled with something else. Something sharper. Something dangerous. The mistress stepped back. One step. Then another. As if distance could erase what had already been spoken. I did not know. Her voice cracked again. Higher. Desperate. But no one believed her now. Not after the name. Not after the silence that followed it. The judge watched quietly. Hands folded. Eyes cold. Observing everything. Collecting every reaction. Every fracture. Elena let out a slow breath. Her hand moved again, this time reaching for her stomach. Protective. Instinctive. He promised. The words came out uneven. Fragments of something deeper. Something buried. The room leaned closer. Listening. Without moving. Without breathing. He said it would never come out. Her voice shook. But it did not stop. The mistress's face twisted. Tears filled her eyes. But they did not fall. Not yet. That old man. Elena whispered. And now the entire courtroom felt the shift. The final piece sliding into place. Heavy. Unavoidable. The mistress covered her mouth. Her shoulders trembling. Her control slipping. Completely. He told me it was over. Elena continued. Each word dragging itself out. Painfully. He said he would protect me. A silence followed. Long. Crushing. The kind that forced everyone to feel it. To carry it. The doctor looked at the judge. A silent request to end this. To stop her. But the judge did not intervene. Not yet. Because something important was unfolding. Something that needed to be heard. The mistress suddenly laughed. A sharp, broken sound. Completely out of place. Completely wrong. It echoed strangely. Unstable. You think you are the victim. Her voice changed. Lower now. Almost bitter. Her eyes locked onto Elena. Filled with something dark. Something ugly. You went to him first. The words struck harder than anything before. A gasp spread across the room. Quick. Collective. Elena froze. Her expression shifting. Confusion. Shock. Then something else. Recognition. The mistress stepped forward now. No longer retreating. No longer hiding. You remember? She said. Quiet. But cutting. He paid for your silence. The room tilted again. Another truth. Another layer. The judge's fingers tapped once against the desk. Slow. Measured. Elena's breathing grew uneven. Faster. Her eyes widened. No. But the denial sounded weak. Uncertain. Like something already collapsing. Yes. The mistress whispered. Closer now. Each step deliberate. Each word precise. You took his money. You stayed quiet. You let it happen again. Each sentence struck like a blow. Invisible. But devastating. Elena's face twisted. Pain. Guilt. Something breaking apart. I had no choice. She forced the words out. Barely holding together. The mistress stopped just a few feet away. Looking down at her. You always had a choice. Cold. Final. The doctor stepped in again. This time more forcefully. That is enough. But it was too late. Everything had already been said. Everything had already been exposed. The truth hung in the air. Heavy. Rotting. Impossible to ignore. And then, from the back of the courtroom, a slow clap. One single clap. Echoing. Sharp. Deliberate. Every head turned. At once. A figure stood near the entrance. Tall. Still. Watching. Viktor Sokolov. His presence changed everything. Instantly. The air thickened. Fear spread. Silent. Immediate. His face was calm. Too calm. Eyes scanning the room. Taking everything in. The fallen woman. The trembling mistress. The silent judge. He stepped forward. One slow step. Then another. His shoes echoed against the floor. Controlled. Unhurried. As if none of this surprised him. As if he had expected this moment all along. Elena's body went rigid. Her breath caught. A visible reaction. Deep. Instinctive. The mistress stepped back again. Now truly afraid. Now understanding. Viktor stopped in the center. His gaze dropped to Elena. Lying on the floor. Weak. Exposed. Then lifted. To the mistress. Shaking. Broken. And then to the judge. Who met his eyes without flinching. Silence stretched again. Longer this time. More dangerous. Viktor smiled. Just slightly. A small movement. But it carried something unsettling. Something wrong. You opened the file. He said calmly. His voice smooth, almost gentle, but it carried weight. The judge did not respond immediately, only watched, measured, careful. You should not have done that. Viktor continued. And now something shifted again. Something darker. Something far more dangerous than anything before. Because his tone did not carry fear. It carried certainty. Absolute certainty. That this was not over. Not even close. The judge remained still. Unmoved. Eyes fixed on Viktor. As if measuring something far beyond words. You are late. The judge finally said. Calm. Controlled. Viktor's smile widened slightly. I arrive when it matters. His voice carried a strange warmth. One that did not belong in that room. One that made the skin tighten. The doctor shifted nervously, still kneeling beside Elena, as if unsure whether to stay or retreat. Elena's chest rose sharply, her breathing uneven again, but her eyes remained open, locked on Viktor. Fear, recognition, and something deeper, something that had never truly left. Do not come closer. Her voice cracked, weak, but filled with urgency. Viktor tilted his head, almost amused. You still think you can give orders? He took another step. Slow, deliberate. The sound of his shoes echoed again. Too loud, too clear. The mistress stumbled back further, her back hitting the wooden barrier. She had nowhere else to go. No, she whispered. Audible. But Viktor heard it. He turned his gaze toward her. Sharp, focused. And suddenly, the room felt smaller, as if his attention alone reduced the air. You, he said quietly. The word dragged out. Heavy, accusing. The mistress shook her head violently, tears finally falling now. I never meant for this. Her voice broke completely. Gone was the confidence. Gone was the control. Only fear remained. Raw, unfiltered. Viktor studied her. For a moment. Long enough to make her tremble harder. Then he laughed. Soft. Low. Unsettling. You meant every part of it. The words slipped out like poison. Slow. Certain. The judge leaned forward slightly. Enough to shift the balance again. Mr. Sokolov, you will maintain order. His tone sharpened. Not loud, but firm. Viktor did not look at him. Not immediately. Instead, he crouched down, closer to Elena, ignoring the doctor, ignoring everything else. His shadow fell over her, blocking the light. Elena flinched, her body reacting before her mind calculed. You should have stayed quiet, Viktor said softly, his voice now almost a whisper. But every person in the room heard it. Clear, distinct. Elena's eyes filled with something fierce, something that refused to break. No more? She forced the words out, every syllable painful, every breath a struggle. Viktor's expression changed, only slightly, but enough. Enough to reveal irritation. A crack in his calm. You already made your choice long ago, he replied, still low, still controlled. The doctor finally spoke. Stronger this time. You need to step away. Viktor ignored him. Completely. As if he did not exist. As if no one else existed. Only Elena. Only the moment between them. You took what I gave you. His voice sharpened. You kept coming back. Each word pressed harder. The accusation twisted. Distorted. Elena's hand clenched, her nails digging into her palm. I came back because I was afraid, she whispered, her voice trembling, but her eyes steady. I came back because you made sure I had nowhere else to go. The room shifted again. Another layer peeled away. Another truth exposed. The mistress stared, frozen, as if seeing something she never understood before. Viktor stood slowly, his movement controlled, but his eyes darker now, colder, dangerous. Fear is a choice, he said, flat, unfeeling. The judge's hand moved. A small signal. Officers near the door straightened, alert, ready. Something was about to break. Everyone felt it. The tension stretched. Tighter, tighter, until it almost snapped. And then, Elena spoke again. Her voice stronger now. Not louder, but sharper, clearer. You are the father. The words cut through everything. Through silence. Through control. Through fear. Final. Irreversible. Viktor did not react immediately. That was the most disturbing part. No denial. No anger. Just stillness. Absolute stillness. Then, a slow breath. Almost thoughtful. Yes, he said. Quietly. The word dropped like a weight. Heavy. Crushing. The courtroom erupted. Voices rising. Chaos breaking through restraint. But the judge slammed his gavel. Once. Loud. Commanding. Silence returned. Reluctantly. Shaking. But present. You admit this under court record? The judge asked. Eyes locked on Viktor. Viktor turned his head slightly, looking directly at him now. For the first time. Yes. Again. Calm. Certain. No hesitation. No fear. The mistress collapsed into the bench behind her. Her legs no longer able to hold her. Her face empty. Destroyed. The truth had consumed everything she believed. Everything she built her confidence on. Elena let out a long breath. Almost a release. But not relief. Never relief. Only the end of something. Something heavy. Something suffocating. The doctor moved quickly now. Checking her again. She cannot stay here. He insisted. Urgent. This time no one argued. But before anyone could move her, Viktor spoke again. One last time. You think this ends anything? His voice echoed. Low. Carrying something far worse than anger. It carried promise. A dark promise. The kind that did not fade. The kind that stayed. I am not finished. Those words settled into the room. Deep. Unshakable. And in that moment, every person present understood. This truth. This confession. This collapse. Was not the climax. It was only the beginning. Of something far more dangerous. Something that had just been unleashed. And could not be contained anymore. The officers moved first. 2 steps forward. Hands ready. Eyes locked on Viktor. But he did not resist. Not yet. He simply stood there. Still. Watching. As if the room belonged to him. As if every breath inside it answered to him. Take him into custody. The judge ordered. Firm. Final. The words carried weight. Authority. But something in the air resisted them. Like the command did not fully land. Like something unseen held it back. The officers hesitated. Just for a fraction. Then continued. One reached for Viktor's arm. Carefully. Measured. The moment his fingers touched fabric. Viktor turned his head. Slowly. Too slowly. His eyes met the officer's. And the officer froze. Not completely. But enough. Enough to break rhythm. Enough to create doubt. Be careful. Viktor said quietly. Not a threat. Not loud. But something inside it made the officer pull his hand back. Instinct. Pure instinct. The second officer stepped in. More forceful. Gripping Viktor's shoulder. This time harder. This time without hesitation. Viktor allowed it. His body moved slightly. But his expression remained unchanged. Calm. Unbothered. As if none of this mattered. As if he had already calculated every possible outcome. The mistress watched. Eyes wide. Unblinking. Her breathing shallow. Her hands gripping the edge of the bench, so tightly her knuckles turned pale. This is not how it was supposed to happen. She whispered. More to herself than anyone else. Her voice thin. Fragile. Broken beyond repair. No one answered her. Because no one could. Because nothing about this moment followed any expectation. The doctor signaled again. Urgent now. We are losing time. Elena's body trembled slightly. A subtle movement. But dangerous. Her skin had grown colder. Her lips darker. The life inside her fragile. Threatened. Slipping. 2 paramedics rushed in. A stretcher rolling behind them. The wheels squeaked sharply against the floor. An unpleasant sound. Too loud. Too real. They knelt beside Elena. Quick. Efficient. But even their movements carried tension. Because they felt it too. Something wrong in the air. Something that did not belong in a normal emergency. Elena, stay with us, one of them said. Firm. Grounding. Her eyes flickered again. Trying to focus. Trying to stay present. Her hand lifted weakly. Reaching. Not for help. But toward Viktor. The movement shocked everyone. Even him. For the first time. A crack. Small. Barely visible. But there. His eyes shifted. A flicker of something. Confusion. Or recognition. Or something far more complex. You do not get to walk away. Elena whispered. Each word pulling from the last of her strength. The room held its breath. Listening. Waiting. Viktor stepped closer again. Despite the officers. Despite the hands on him. He moved just enough. Just within reach of her voice. I never walk away. He replied. Soft. Certain. The paramedics exchanged a quick glance. Unspoken understanding. They needed to move. No. They carefully lifted Elena. Her body light. Too light. As if something had already been taken from her. The stretcher creaked under her weight. The straps tightened across her chest. Securing her. Holding her in place. Her eyes remained open. Locked on Viktor. Refusing to close. Refusing to lose sight of him. As if that alone kept her conscious. As if letting go would mean something worse. The mistress suddenly stood again. Unsteady. Her legs shaking. No. She said. Louder this time. More desperate. You are not taking all of this and leaving me with nothing. Her voice rose. Breaking. Cracking. Unstable. The officers turned toward her briefly. Confusion crossing their faces. She stepped forward. Pointing at Viktor. Then at Elena. This was never supposed to come out like this. She laughed again. A hollow sound. Echoing strangely. You told me it was controlled. Her eyes burned into Viktor. Accusing. Demanding. You said no one would ever believe her. The room shifted again. Another fracture. Another piece falling apart. Viktor looked at her. Finally. Directly. His expression unreadable. You believed what you needed to believe. He said calmly. Cold. Detached. The mistress staggered. As if the words physically struck her. Her hand moved to her mouth again. But this time it did not cover anything. It only trembled. Violently. The judge leaned back. Watching everything unfold. But his eyes had changed. Something deeper now. Something calculating. As if he was seeing beyond the moment. Beyond the chaos. You manipulated both of them. The judge said. Quiet. But sharp. Viktor did not deny it. Did not confirm it. He simply stood there. Silent. And that silence spoke louder than any answer. The stretcher began to move. Rolling toward the exit. Slow at first. Then faster. The wheels echoing again. Marking every second. Every inch of distance. Elena's hand slipped slightly off the side. Her fingers brushing the air. As if reaching for something she could not hold. Something already lost. Do not let him disappear. She whispered. Barely audible. But the judge heard it. Clear. Precise. His gaze sharpened instantly. A decision forming. Solid. Unshakable. He does not leave this building. The judge ordered. Stronger now. Absolute. The officers tightened their grip. This time without hesitation. This time without fear. Something had shifted. Something had locked into place. Viktor allowed it. Again. But his eyes followed the stretcher. Every movement. Every second. Until it reached the doors. Until it passed through. Until Elena disappeared from sight. Only then did his expression change. Just slightly. A shadow passing through it. Something darker. Something colder. You are all too late. He said quietly. Almost to himself. But everyone heard it. Every word. Every tone. And in that moment, the weight of those words settled into the room. Heavy, unavoidable, because deep down, every person there felt it. Something had already been set in motion. Long before this courtroom. Long before this confession. Long before Elena collapsed. Something that could not be stopped now. Something that was still unfolding. Somewhere beyond those doors, where Elena had just been taken. And whatever waited for her next was far more dangerous than anything that had happened here so far. The doors slammed shut behind the stretcher. A hollow sound. Heavy. Final. For a moment, no one moved. As if the entire courtroom had been emptied of air. The absence she left behind felt louder than anything before. Viktor's eyes remained fixed on those doors. Unblinking. Unwavering. As if he could still see through them. As if distance did not matter. Where are they taking her? His voice cut through the silence. Low. Controlled. But something inside it had shifted. Something sharper. The judge did not answer immediately. He studied Viktor. Carefully. As if searching for the exact point where control would break. To a place you will not reach. The judge replied. Calm. Measured. Viktor's jaw tightened. A subtle movement. But the first real sign of resistance. You think distance protects her? He said. Almost amused. But the amusement felt wrong. Forced. Like something covering something else. The mistress let out a quiet sob, collapsing fully onto the bench now. Her body curled inward, as if trying to disappear. No one is protected. She whispered. Her voice empty, drained. No one responded. Because no one could deny it. The truth lingered too heavily. The officers began moving Viktor toward the side exit. Firm. Controlled. But cautious. Every step measured. Every grip tighter than before. Viktor did not fight. Not physically. But his presence resisted. Like something heavy being dragged through water. Slow. Unwilling. Unfinished. Secure him immediately. The judge ordered. His tone sharper now. The room responded. Finally. Fully. Action replacing paralysis. But even as Viktor was led away, he turned his head slightly. Just enough. His gaze sweeping the room one last time, pausing on the mistress, who refused to look back, then lifting toward the judge. A silent exchange. Something unspoken passing between them. Something unresolved. Something dangerous. And then he was gone, disappearing beyond the side door. The echo of his footsteps lingered, fading slowly, but never fully disappearing. The courtroom remained still. For several seconds. Long. Uncomfortable. As if waiting for something else to happen. As if expecting him to return. The judge exhaled slowly. A controlled release. But his hands remained tense, resting against the desk. He looked down at the file again. That same file. Now heavier than before. As if its contents had grown. As if it held more than paper. More than facts. Bring the secondary records. He said quietly. One of the clerks hesitated, then nodded. Rushing out, the mistress lifted her head slowly. Her eyes red. Swollen. Lost. What else is there? She asked. Her voice barely stable. The judge did not answer her. Not directly. Instead, he opened the file again, turning to the final section. Sealed pages. Previously untouched. His fingers paused on them, just for a second, as if even he understood. Once opened, there would be no returning. Then, he broke the seal. The paper tore softly, but the sound carried. Sharp. Irreversible. The room leaned in again, drawn by something deeper than curiosity. Drawn by the need to understand. Or perhaps, the need to confirm their worst fear. The judge read silently at first, his eyes scanning quickly, then slower, then stopping. His expression changed, not dramatically, but enough. Enough to unsettle everyone watching. What is it? The mistress whispered. This time not demanding, not accusing, just afraid. The judge looked up, but not at her. At the empty space where Viktor had stood, he was never acting alone. The words fell flat, but their meaning expanded instantly, filling every corner of the room. The air thickened again. He continued. The records indicate multiple identities linked to the same pattern. He turned another page. Financial transfers across different regions. Another page. Medical records altered. Another. Witness statements erased. Each line added weight. Each detail tightened something unseen. The mistress shook her head slowly. No. But it was not denial. It was realization. Something falling into place. Too late. Far too late. He planned this. She whispered. Her voice hollow. The judge closed the file halfway. Not fully. Just enough to hold the place. Yes, he said. Quiet. Certain. The word echoed differently now. Not sharp. Not loud. But deep. Like something settling at the bottom of everything. From the hallway. A sudden noise. Fast footsteps. Urgent. A nurse burst into the room. Breathless. Eyes wide. Where is the judge? Her voice trembled. The room shifted again. Instantly. The judge stood. What happened? The nurse struggled to speak. Words catching. But she forced them out. The patient. She swallowed hard. Her hands shaking. She is gone. Silence. Total. Immediate. The kind that erased everything else. The mistress stared. Unmoving. Unblinking. The judge stepped forward. Gone where? His voice sharp now, cutting through hesitation. The nurse shook her head. We do not know. Her voice broke. She disappeared between corridors. A pause. Heavy. Unreal. The cameras. The judge demanded. The nurse's expression collapsed further. They went dark. The words landed harder than anything before. Dark. Complete. Intentional. The room felt colder instantly. The fluorescent lights above flickered again, more violently this time, casting unstable shadows across every face. The judge turned slowly, toward the doors Viktor had been taken through. Understanding forming. Fast. Clear. Too clear. He was right. The mistress whispered. Her voice barely there. The judge did not respond. Because there was nothing left to say. Because everything had already been said. In pieces. In fragments. In warnings no one fully understood. Until now. Somewhere beyond those walls. Beyond the courtroom. Beyond control. Elena was no longer where she should have been. And whatever had taken her, had done so with precision. With planning. With certainty. And the most unsettling part was not that she was gone, but that Viktor never once looked surprised. Not even for a second. The hallway lights flickered again. Longer this time. As if something moved through the wiring itself. The nurse stepped back. Her breath uneven. I saw her stretcher reach the turn. She said. Her voice shaking. But when we followed. She stopped. Swallowed hard. There was nothing. The judge moved immediately. No hesitation now. Locked down the entire floor. His voice echoed. Sharp. Commanding. Officers rushed out. Boots striking the floor. Fast. Urgent. The stillness shattered completely. The mistress remained where she was. Frozen. As if her body refused to follow what her mind now understood. This was planned. She whispered again. Quieter. More certain. The judge stepped into the hallway. The air felt different outside. Colder. Sterile. But disturbed. Something invisible dragged through it. Something wrong. The corridors stretched long. White walls. Bright lights. But the brightness felt false. Like it hid something underneath. The stretcher tracks were still visible. Faint lines on the polished floor. Leading forward. Then stopping. Abruptly. No turn. No continuation. Just an end. As if the movement had been erased. The judge crouched slightly. His fingers hovering over the marks. Not touching. Just observing. Check every door. He ordered. Officers scattered. Opening rooms. Checking corners. Voices overlapping. Tense. Controlled chaos. But nothing. No trace. No sign. No sound. The nurse stood near the wall, clutching her hands together. "I heard something," she said suddenly, her eyes darting, trying to remember. "A sound like metal." She paused, thinking, like something locking. The judge's gaze sharpened. "Where?" She pointed down the corridor, toward a restricted section. A heavy door stood at the end. Gray. Reinforced. Almost out of place in the clean hallway. "What is that room?" the judge asked. One of the staff answered quickly. "Old surgical storage." His voice uncertain. "We do not use it anymore." The judge stood, walking toward it. Each step measured. The air grew heavier with every inch, as if something resisted the approach. As if the hallway itself did not want him to reach that door. The handle was cold. Unnaturally cold. He paused, just for a moment, then turned it. It did not move. Locked. From the inside. The officers arrived behind him. Weapons ready now. Instinct taking over. "Open it," the judge ordered. One officer struck the lock. Once. Twice. The metal groaned, then gave way. The door swung open. Slow. Heavy. A dark smell poured out. Thick. Metallic. Unmistakable. Blood. The lights inside flickered weakly, casting broken shadows across the room. The stretcher stood in the center. Empty. One strap still loose, swinging slightly, as if it had just been released. The floor beneath it stained. Fresh. Dark. Too much. Far too much. The nurse gasped, covering her mouth. The sound barely contained. The judge stepped inside. Careful. Alert. Every sense sharp. There were no signs of struggle. No overturned equipment. No scattered tools. Only control. Precise. Clean. And yet, something violent had happened here. Something deliberate. The judge's eyes moved slowly across the room, then stopped. On the far wall, a message, written in blood. Large. Uneven. But clear. "She belongs to me." The words twisted across the surface. Disturbing. Possessive. Final. The air seemed to collapse inward. Heavy. Suffocating. The mistress appeared in the doorway, pulled by something she could not resist. Her eyes locked onto the message, and she screamed. A raw sound, breaking through everything, breaking through whatever control remained. The judge did not react to the scream. His focus remained on the wall, on the meaning behind those words, on the certainty they carried. Behind him, one officer spoke quietly. "We secured Viktor." The judge did not turn. "Where is he?" "In holding," the officer replied. The judge finally looked back. Slow. Deliberate. "Bring him here." His voice low, but absolute. The officer hesitated, just slightly, then nodded, leaving immediately. The mistress stumbled inside, her steps uneven, her face pale. He took her. She whispered, over and over, as if repeating it would make it less real, less permanent. But it only made it worse, because each repetition carved the truth deeper. The judge stepped closer to the wall, studying the writing, the lines, the pressure, the direction. Every detail mattered. Every detail told something. This was not chaos. This was control. This was intention. "He wants us to see this," the judge said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. The room felt smaller, closing in. The flickering lights grew unstable, buzzing faintly. The smell thickened, harder to ignore, harder to breathe through. Footsteps approached again, firm, measured, returning. Viktor entered, hands restrained, but posture unchanged. His eyes scanned the room once, taking everything in, the blood, the stretcher, the message, and then he smiled. Not wide, not obvious, but enough. Enough to confirm everything. "You found it," he said softly. The judge turned fully now, facing him, every ounce of authority sharpened. Where is she? The question cut through the air. Direct. Demanding. Viktor tilted his head slightly, almost curious. Safe, he replied. The words sounded wrong. Distorted. Twisted. The mistress lunged forward. Desperate. Tell us where she is. Her voice broke into fragments. But Viktor did not even look at her. His gaze remained on the judge. Steady. Unshaken. You open something you do not understand, he said. Calm. Certain. The judge stepped closer, closing the distance. You lost control, he replied. Cold. Accusing. Viktor's expression did not change. No, he said. Quietly. I passed it on. The words settled heavily. Confusing. Unclear. But dangerous. The judge's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Viktor's smile deepened. Just slightly. Enough to disturb. It means. He paused, letting the silence stretch, letting the weight build. She is no longer part of your world. The lights flickered violently. For a second, the entire room plunged into darkness. Complete. Absolute. Then returned. But something had changed. The air felt different. Colder. Sharper. And for the first time, the judge felt it. Not doubt. Not fear. But something far worse. The realization that this was never just a crime. Never just manipulation. Never just control. Something else had been set in motion. Something that did not follow rules. Something that could not be contained by walls. Or locks. Or law. And somewhere beyond that room, beyond those walls, Elena was still alive. But no longer where anyone could reach her. No longer where anyone could protect her. And whatever held her now was waiting. Not hiding. Waiting. The lights steadied. But the cold did not leave. It clung to the walls. To the floor. To the skin. The judge felt it in his chest. A tight pressure. Unfamiliar. Unwelcome. Waiting for what? He asked. His voice lower now. Less certain. Viktor did not answer immediately. He looked past the judge. Toward the message on the wall. Toward the blood. Still wet. Still fresh. Not for you, he said finally. Quiet. Measured. The mistress shook her head. Her breathing uneven. No one is waiting. She whispered. Trying to convince herself. Trying to deny what she could already feel. But the room answered her. With silence. Heavy. Absolute. A faint sound broke through it. Soft. Distant. Like something dragging across metal. The nurse flinched. Her eyes darting toward the corridor. Did you hear that? No one replied. Because they all had. The sound came again. Closer this time. A slow scrape. Deliberate. Rhythmic. The officers raised their weapons. Instinct taking over. Training colliding with something they could not name. The judge stepped toward the doorway. Every sense sharpened. Every breath controlled. The hallway stretched empty. But the sound did not stop. It moved. Along the walls. Above. Below. Impossible to locate. Impossible to predict. What is that? One officer whispered. Too quiet. Too late. The lights flickered again. Faster now. Violently. The shadows shifted. Not with the light, but against it. Moving in directions they should not. The nurse stumbled back. Her hand gripping the wall. It is not the power, she said. Her voice breaking. There is no outage. The scraping stopped. Suddenly. Completely. The silence that followed felt wrong. Not calm. Not still. But waiting. Viktor closed his eyes briefly. As if listening. As if recognizing something. Then he exhaled. Slow. Satisfied. It is here, he said. The words froze the room. Instantly. The mistress let out a sharp cry. Her body shaking uncontrollably. No, no, no. She repeated. Over and over. The judge stepped forward. Anger cutting through the fear. This is not a game. His voice rose. Strong. commanding. But even that felt smaller now. Less powerful. Viktor opened his eyes again, looking directly at him. It was never a game, he replied. Calm. Certain. A shadow passed across the hallway. Quick. But wrong. Too solid. Too defiant. The officer nearest the door reacted instantly. Movement. He shouted. But when they turned, there was nothing. Only empty space. Only white walls. The nurse pointed suddenly, her hand trembling. There. At the far end of the corridor. Near the ceiling. A dark mark. Spreading. Slowly. Like ink soaking into paper. But it moved. Against gravity. Crawling downward. Twisting. The lights above it dimmed. Flickering erratically. As if something drained them. The judge stepped forward. Carefully. Every instinct telling him to stop. But refusing to listen. The mark grew larger. Thicker. Forming edges. Not random. Not natural. A shape. Something beginning to take form. The air temperature dropped sharply. Breath became visible. Faint. Ghost-like. The mistress backed into the wall. Sliding down. Unable to stand. Unable to look away. What did you do? She whispered toward Viktor. But he did not answer her. His attention fixed on the forming shape. Pride flickering in his expression. Something close to reverence. The mark stretched further. Reaching the floor. Touching it. Spreading outward. Like something stepping through. Crossing a boundary. The scraping sound returned. Now louder. Now clear. Not metal. Not exactly. Something harder. Something organic. And then, from within the darkness, a hand. Long. Too long. Fingers extending. Thin. Twisted. Pressing against the surface as if pushing through it. The nurse screamed. A sharp, piercing sound. The officers raised their weapons. But none of them fired. Because none of them understood what they were aiming at. The judge stood frozen. For the first time. Completely still. As the hand pulled itself free. Followed by another. And then. A shape. Tall. Distorted. Unnatural. Emerging fully into the corridor. The darkness peeled away from it slowly. Revealing something that did not belong. Something that should not exist. Its head tilted. Too far. At an impossible angle. As if studying them. As if recognizing them. The air vibrated faintly. A low hum. Barely audible. But felt. Deep in the chest. The mistress sobbed uncontrollably now. Her voice lost. Her body shaking violently. It came for her. Viktor said softly. Almost with awe. The judge forced himself to speak. What is that? His voice strained. Tight. Barely controlled. Viktor's eyes did not leave the figure. It is what was promised. He replied. The figure moved. One step forward. Its limbs bending strangely. Not following normal motion. Not following any rule. Each movement accompanied by that same scraping sound. The officers stepped back instinctively. Breaking formation. Breaking control. Because fear had replaced training. The figure stopped. Just outside the doorway. Its presence filling the space. Pressing into the room. Its head turned slowly. Locking onto Viktor. For a moment. Everything stilled. The air. The sound. The light. All of it paused. As if waiting for something. Viktor smiled again. But this time. It was not controlled. Not calm. It was something else. Something deeper. Something that carried belief. It recognizes me. He whispered. The figure tilted its head further. An unnatural motion. Then. It spoke. Not with a voice. But with something that resonated. Inside every mind in the room. A sound that was not sound. A word that was not spoken. But understood. Debt. The meaning hit all of them. Instantly. Clear. Unavoidable. The mistress screamed again. Covering her ears. But it did not matter. Because the sound was not in the air. It was inside. The judge staggered slightly. His balance slipping. What debt? He forced the words out. But Viktor already knew. His expression changed. For the first time. Fear. Real. Sharp. Unhidden. A crack in everything he had held. The figure took another step. Closer. Reaching. Its long fingers stretching toward him. And in that moment, the truth revealed itself. Not in words, but in understanding. Viktor had not controlled anything. He had not passed anything on. He had not escaped anything. He had only delayed it. And now, it had come to collect. Not Elena. Not the mistress. But him. Viktor stepped back. One step. Then another. For the first time, his control fractured completely. No. The word slipped out. Unsteady. Unfamiliar. The figure did not rush. It did not need to. Its movements remained slow. Certain. Each step echoing with that same unnatural scrape. Stay back, Viktor said. Louder now. But the command carried no power. No authority. Only fear. The officers looked at him. Then at the thing approaching. And understood. This was never under his control. Not even once. The figure's hand extended further. Fingers bending. Reaching. Almost curious. As if studying him. As if remembering. The air grew heavier. Harder to breathe. The lights dimmed again. Not flickering now. Just fading. Like something drained them deliberately. You promised. Viktor said. His voice breaking. You said it would be contained. The word echoed strangely. Contained. As if it never truly belonged. The figure paused. Just inches from him. Its head tilting again. That same impossible angle. And once more. That sound without sound filled the room. Lie. The meaning struck deep. Cold. Absolute. Viktor shook his head violently. No. But the denial meant nothing. The figure moved faster. Suddenly. Without warning. Its hand snapping forward. Gripping his wrist. The contact made a sound. Not flesh. Not bone. Something else. Something hollow. Viktor screamed. A raw, uncontrolled sound. His body twisted. Trying to pull free. But the grip did not move. Did not weaken. The officers reacted. Finally. Instinct taking over. One fired. The shot rang out. Loud. Sharp. But it changed nothing. The bullet passed through. As if through shadow. As if through nothing. The figure did not even react. Viktor's knees hit the floor. Hard. His other hand clawing at the grip. Useless. Completely useless. You do not understand. He shouted. Desperate now. I followed the rules. The figure leaned closer. Its form bending unnaturally. Closing the distance. The air around them distorted. As if reality itself bent. Debt. Again. Stronger this time. Heavier. The meaning clearer. Payment. Collection. Finality. Viktor's voice broke into fragments. I gave you others. The words spilled out. Desperate. Ugly. I gave you what you asked. Her eyes. When she reached the center of the screen. She stopped. Looking directly into the camera. Into him. Her face pale. But calm. Too calm. You found me. Her voice came through. Clear. But layered. Not entirely her own. The judge did not react. Not outwardly. Where are you? He asked. Direct. Focused. The image flickered slightly. As if the question disturbed something. I am where the door remains open. She replied. The words careful. Precise. As if chosen. As if guided. The judge's eyes narrowed. Can you leave? A pause. Long. Uncomfortable. Then. No. The answer came. Soft. But final. The judge felt it. Not despair. Not fear. But confirmation. You are not alone there. He said. Again. Not a question. A statement. Elena's expression shifted. Just slightly. A flicker. Something beneath the surface. No one is alone here. She replied. The meaning deeper. Wider. Unsettling. The judge stepped closer to the screen. Why show yourself? Another pause. Longer this time. As if something resisted the answer. Then, because you understand the rules, she said, her voice lowering, becoming more layered, more distant. The judge remained still, listening, absorbing. Then tell me the rule I need, he said. The image distorted, the hallway behind her flickering, shifting, as if something moved beyond it, as if something listened. Elena's eyes changed. For a moment, they were hers again. Clear, human, urgent. Do not let them mark another, she said quickly. The words rushed, breaking through something. Before it could stop her, the screen glitched violently, static exploding, sound distorting. Her expression snapped back. Empty, controlled. They are learning faster now, she said. Calm again. Wrong again. The judge's jaw tightened. Who are they? The question landed. Heavy. The image flickered, her form shifting slightly, as if something behind her pressed forward. We are, she answered. The word layered. Multiple. Unified. The judge held his ground. Even now. Even here. You are still Elena, he said. Firm. Certain. The image froze. Just for a second. A crack. A hesitation. A possibility. Then, a smile. Slow. Unnatural. No, she replied. Quiet. Final. We are what she became. The screen went black. Instantly. Completely. The room fell silent. Again. But this silence carried something new. Direction. Warning. The judge stood there. Unmoving. Every piece aligning. Every rule clearer. Every boundary thinner. Because now, it was not just about entry. Not just about permission. Not just about understanding. No. It was about transformation. About what happened after. About what remained. He turned slowly, looking back toward the corridor. Toward the place where it had begun. Another will be marked, he said. Quiet. Certain. Because that was the pattern. That was the rule. And this time, he would not wait. This time, he would not react. He would find it first. Before the mark. Before the door. Before the choice. Because somewhere, very close, closer than anyone realized, the next one had already been chosen. And they did not know it yet. The realization did not bring relief. It brought urgency. Sharp. Immediate. The judge moved quickly. Out of the control room. Into the corridor. His steps faster now. No hesitation. Because the pattern was clear. And patterns repeated. That was the rule. He stopped in the center of the hallway, closing his eyes briefly. Not to rest. To feel. The presence. The shift. The subtle distortion beneath reality. There. Faint. But different. Not the same as before. Not distant. Closer. Much closer. His eyes opened, locking onto a direction. Down the left wing. The older section. Where the lights always flickered slightly. Where the air felt colder. Even before all of this. He walked. Faster. Each step more certain. Because now, he understood what to look for. Not signs of force. Not visible traces. But absence. Disruption. A place where something felt just slightly wrong. He reached the end of the corridor. The lights above him flickered. Once. Twice. Then steadied. Too quickly. Too deliberately. You are here, he said. Quiet. But firm. No answer came. But that meant nothing. He stepped forward. Into a smaller hallway. Less used. Less monitored. Doors lined both sides. Closed. Silent. But one. At the far end. Slightly open. Just enough. Just enough to be noticed. Just enough to invite. He did not hesitate. He walked toward it. Each step measured. Controlled. The air grew colder. With every inch. His breath visible now. Faint. Ghost-like. The door creaked as he pushed it open. Slow. Heavy. Inside. A room. Small. Plain. A single chair. A single table. And someone sitting there. Still. Unmoving. A man. Middle-aged. Hospital staff. The judge recognized him. Records department. Quiet. Unnoticed. The kind of person no one paid attention to. The man's eyes were open, but unfocused, staring forward. Not seeing. The judge stepped closer, carefully, observing. "You can hear me," he said. Not a question. The man did not respond. But something shifted. Subtle. Almost invisible. The judge watched closely, looking for it, finding it. A delay. A fraction of a second. Between presence and reaction. "You are already touched," the judge said. The word chosen carefully. Not marked. Not yet. But close. The man's lips twitched. Just slightly. A sign. A signal. Something pushing through. "You feel it," the judge continued. Calm. Measured. The man's breathing changed. Slow. Then uneven. His fingers curled, gripping the edge of the chair. "I hear something," the man whispered. His voice distant, as if coming from far away. The judge stepped closer. "This is where you choose," he said. Firm. Clear. The man's head tilted slightly. That same unnatural angle. But weaker. Less controlled. Not complete. "What is it?" the man asked. His voice trembling. Afraid. Confused. The judge did not look away. "It is something that will take everything if you let it." The truth. Simple. Direct. The man's breathing grew faster. "I do not understand," he said. The room shifted. The air tightening. The temperature dropping further. The judge felt it. The presence approaching. Listening. Waiting. He did not have much time. "You do not need to understand," he said. "You only need to refuse." The words landed. Heavy. Clear. The man's body tensed. His eyes widening slightly. As if something inside him reacted. As if something resisted. "Refuse what?" he asked. Desperate now. The judge leaned slightly closer. "Anything that is not your voice." The silence that followed was not empty. It was full. Full of something pressing. Something trying to answer. Something trying to replace. The man's lips parted. But no sound came out. His eyes shifted. Flickering. Between awareness and something else. Something darker. "You hear it now," the judge said. Quiet. The man nodded. Barely. "Yes." The word came out strained. As if pulled from him. The air vibrated. That low hum returning. Growing. Building. The presence arriving. Fast. The judge stepped back. Just enough. Giving space. Giving the man the moment. Because this was the rule. This was the line. The man's body shook. His hands gripping his head. "It is telling me to open," he cried. His voice breaking. "To let it in." The judge's expression hardened. "Then do not," he said. Simple. Final. The hum grew louder. The lights flickered violently. The shadows in the room stretched. Twisting. Moving. The man screamed. A raw, desperate sound. "I cannot stop it." The judge stepped forward again. His voice sharper now. "You can." The word cut through the noise. Through the pressure. Through the presence. "You still have not said yes." The truth struck. Deep. Clear. The man froze. Just for a second. A pause. A moment of clarity. The hum faltered. Slightly. The shadows stilled. The presence hesitated. The man's breathing slowed. Just a little. "I did not say yes," he whispered. The judge nodded. "That is enough." The air shifted. Suddenly. The pressure easing. The hum collapsing. The shadows snapping back. The lights stabilizing. The man gasped. Falling forward. Catching himself on the table. Alive. Present. Free. For now. The room returned to stillness. Real stillness. The judge exhaled slowly. The first real breath since entering. He looked at the man, now shaking, now human. "You are safe," he said. But even as he said it, he knew. Safe was temporary. Always temporary. The man looked up, fear still in his eyes. What was that? The judge did not answer immediately, because the answer was too large, too complex, too dangerous. Instead, he said something else. Something simpler. Something true. "It is something that we'll try again." The words settled. Heavy. Unavoidable. The judge turned, walking toward the door. Because this was not over. Not even close. He had stopped one. But there would be others. More subtle. More prepared. More difficult. Because now, they were learning. Adapting. Evolving. And each time, they would come closer. To someone who would not refuse. To someone who would say yes. And when that happened, the door would not just open. It would stay open. And nothing would be able to close it again. The nights grew quieter. But not empty. Never empty. The building continued its routine. Patients arrived. Doctors moved through halls. Voices returned. Normal life resumed. At least on the surface. But beneath it, something remained. A thin line. Invisible. Untouched. Yet always there. The judge stood alone in his office. The file opened before him. The same file, but heavier now. Filled with notes. Observations. Patterns. Rules. Not laws. Not yet. But something close. Something that could become law. If understood correctly. He traced one line slowly. A sentence he had written himself. Entry requires consent. Simple. Clear. But fragile. Because he knew. Rules could change. If something learned enough. He closed the file. Not out of relief. But out of readiness. Because the work was not in the file. It was outside. Everywhere. He stepped into the corridor again. The same place. The same path. But now, he did not walk as a man searching. He walked as someone aware. Someone who knew what to look for. And what to prevent. The walls no longer felt silent. They felt observant. The air no longer felt empty. It felt shared. But controlled. Balanced. For now. He stopped once more. At the place where it had begun. Where Elena had vanished. Where the first door had opened. His hand hovered near the wall again. That same faint chill. Still there. But weaker. Contained. "You are still watching," he said quietly. No fear. No challenge. Just acknowledgement. The presence answered. Faint. Distant. "You are still learning." The meaning formed. Soft. Measured. The judge allowed a slow breath. "Yes," he replied. The air shifted. Not hostile. Not calm. Something in between. Something closer to respect. Or recognition. "Elena," he said after a moment. The name carrying weight. The space around him tightened. Just slightly. A response forming. Not immediate. But present. "She remains." The answer came. Layered. But quieter than before. The judge closed his eyes briefly. Not in grief. Not in hope. But in understanding. "She is not lost," he said. The presence lingered. Then. No. The word settled. Strange. Because it carried no threat. Only truth. The judge nodded once. Slow. Accepting. Because some things could not be undone. Only understood. Only balanced. He opened his eyes. Looking forward. Not at the wall. But beyond it. Beyond what could be seen. "If she still exists," he said, "then she still matters." The silence that followed was different. Not heavy. Not waiting. But listening. The kind of silence that accepted something. That allowed something. The judge turned away. Walking down the corridor. Not faster. Not slower. Just steady. Because now, he knew his role. Not to fight. Not to destroy. But to stand. To hold the line. To ensure that choice remained. That refusal remained. that no door opened without awareness, without resistance, without consequence. Behind him, the lights flickered once, soft, barely noticeable, and then steadied again. The building breathed, calm, measured, alive. The world outside continued, unaware, unchanged, or at least, believing it was. But somewhere, just beneath it, just beyond sight, something watched, something learned, something waited. And so did he. Not in fear, not in hope, but in certainty, because the door was no longer hidden. And neither was he. And when it opened again, as it always would, it would not find him unprepared. It would not find him unaware. It would find him standing, ready, not to close it, but to face whatever came through, and decide whether it was allowed or refused.